Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here at the November 4th, 2022 Metal Investors Forum. I'm here with Mark Kolebaba. Mark is the CEO of Adamera Minerals. It's a company I've followed for a few years. It trades under ADZ on the venture and under DDNNF, OTC in the US. Mark has been focused in an area around Republic in Northeast Washington called Cook Mountain area. You've been working there a lot of years. You've done a lot of early stage work, a lot of surveys.
Yep.
But it really feels like you maybe made a couple of breakthroughs this year. So why don't we talk about one? Let's start off with the discovery that you made at Lamefoot South, and why, what's the sort of the bigger picture importance of that? I mean, obviously it's important you drill the hole, but what are the implications of that for what you can do next?
Yeah. So we call it Lamefoot South.
Yeah.
It's about 500 meters from the Lamefoot mine, so it's really close. And sometimes it shocks me to think that you can put a hole in still and find something. But this was not easy to find. We found it using SP, IP, lots of very detailed soils, a lot of resolution on the data, and we put a drill hole through it last year, got 2.7 meters of 4.7 grams. We came back in this year and just did a minor step out either side of it. Both hit, but the one that was more to the north hit it deeper and showed a much, showed it to be thicker and higher grade.
Right.
So I think the grades are telling us something. When we get a gram, you can maybe go either direction and find more, but sometimes it's maybe just a gram, and it's a small occurrence. When you start to get 21 grams, we've got a 2.3 meter section of that is 17.5 grams per ton, and that's, to me, that says you've got a system here, and you need to keep stepping out. We can't step out fast at this point because we don't know the orientation of this. What I do know is it's not planar.
Yeah.
But it's probably like a plunging rod or a cigar-shaped body, and that's not such a shock because the Lamefoot mine itself was like that.
Yeah, Lamefoot was like 1 million ounces, but over 1 million ounces. The grades were high. I think it was 11, 12 grams. But as you found out fairly recently, I guess, because there's not much data. I know I went looking once, but you in the last couple of releases you showed this long section. And Lamefoot is, in fact, it's like 7 shoots is what makes it up.
That's right. And when you're looking at a shoot, there's way more ways to miss it than there is to hit it.
Right.
I mean, they're tough to drill. So you step out slowly and try to piece it together. And then once you understand it, then you can step out.
Right.
And but grade's not the issue. I like this grade, and this is 10 grams, 10.5 grams. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. In
this part of the world.
Well, and you've got, it's important to note too that you've got several targets that are, cheek by jowl, basically. They're quite close to each other, but these are all ones that have the same backup. I mean, it looks like you have found a targeting method that works. That's kind of a game changer, really.
And we went through a lot of things. We just keep trying. And, one of the things we liked about that project right from the beginning is it had a lot of chemistry. And going back to look at the core now and looking at not just gold, but all the trace elements, we can now look back at our soils and go, oh my gosh, we never would have drilled that.
Right.
But then we see these big trace element anomalies that absolutely make sense that didn't make sense 2 months ago.
Right.
So that's really helpful. The geophysics, it's just massive pyrite. So pyrite's not magnetic. It can be a conductor. And it can be, but in this case, it's a very strong SP, self-potential anomaly.
Right.
So, when you get down to SP, you've tried everything.
Right. Yeah. Old school.
Yeah.
And then one of the nice things with Lamefoot too that's definitely worth mentioning is because of the topography and the access, it was a recently logged area. It's pretty much a year-round thing.
Our Buckhorn project, it has an elevation of 5,500 feet.
Yeah.
This is about 3,000 feet.
Right.
It's less than a kilometer off the Highway 21. Right. So super accessible. Once you're on it, you can work all year round for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that you're planning to do. I mean, now that you had this discovery hole, you went to Buckhorn, which we'll talk about in a sec. And now the rig is coming back to Lamefoot, but the idea is to just kind of keep going and keep drilling.
That's right. So we had 2 rigs on Buckhorn. One of them, we got it out of there a couple of days ago. The last one's coming off yesterday and today. And today we got a foot of snow. So it's just that much more difficult. But it'll be off of Buckhorn today, hopefully, and we'll get it down to Lamefoot.
Right.
And we'll work on orienting or getting an orientation of that mineralization. But also we've got a number of other targets, and we need to get permits for that.
Right.
So, and I don't see that as a huge undertaking.
Okay, but you have stuff you can drill right away to get started.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other project that you also, well, I mean, I think arguably you have made a breakthrough. You just don't know, what it means yet because you're waiting for assays. But you drilled 3 or 4 targets at Buckhorn. Maybe a little bit of background on Buckhorn too, because that, again, like Lamefoot, that was a recently producing high-grade gold mine.
Yeah, up until 2017, Kinross was producing gold from that. It was it produced 1.3 million ounces, average grade of 13 grams per ton.
Okay.
And you have to remember, when you have 13 grams per ton, these are not big monsters. It's not like a big porphyry.
Yeah.
You're looking at small bodies that have a lot of gold in them. So when you're exploring, you can take the resolution down.
Right.
And you can try a lot of different tools because you need to just get it right. So there's one producing mine in that district. It was called the Buckhorn. I am a big believer that something like that tends to occur in clusters. They're not usually just a single occurrence. So for us to work near that is a good thing because we think there's others.
Right. And
we use the mine itself as our model. So we know that high-grade gold needs a lot of sulfides. It needs magnetite. They're conductors, they're magnetic. So that's really what we're looking for. And if we can see any soil or rock geochemistry, it just supports that target. And we went out this year, drilled 4 targets, as you suggested, and all 4 of them have hit sulfides.
Right.
And that, I can't tell you how relieved I am because, I mean, if you're looking at a conductor, it could have been graphite.
Right.
That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Of that target. When you hit sulfides, it's really, it's a very good step forward. Now the assays, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a gold project. So gold projects, you never know until the assays come back. But I have to say, I was, and I've followed this stuff for a long time. Mark and I become friends. I mean, I'm not a tiny shareholder, so I'm biased. But I was quite impressed at the size of these intercepts because I just don't think of Cook Mountain as being a place where you get a lot of scale. That was never its appeal. The appeal of Cook Mountain was grade rather than scale. And obviously you got to see how much of any of these individual intercepts have gold in them. But I mean, they were much bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah, 70 meters, 40 meters, 23 meters. So they're really nice intercepts. People say the drill is the truth machine, but it's really the geochem lab.
Right.
You can look at this core and go, oh my God, it's so juicy. It looks exactly like what you would see at the mine.
Right.
But until you get the lab results, don't even speculate. Just be grateful that you hit some sulfides and you hit the right material.
Yeah.
And you've given yourself a chance.
Okay, there you have it. Adamera Minerals, ADZ on the venture, DDNNF, OTC. I've been a shareholder of this company for a long time. I've always liked this project, but it's always been one of those projects where targeting has been tricky. It's just a difficult place to target. And that's what I think might have changed this year. Mark had a bona fide discovery, 4.5 meters to 10 grams, but as importantly, it looks like he's got a targeting methodology that works, and he's got at least 6, 7, 8 other targets at Lamefoot South.
Yeah.
I know you've added some other ones to the roster, even based on what you know now about geochemistry you didn't know before. And Buckhorn, it's a gold project, and gold projects, I'm afraid you just don't know until it comes back from the lab. That said, I was pretty impressed that they drilled 4 targets and they hit the magnetite sulfide combination at all 4 of them. So obviously the targeting that Mark and Martin, the team, are doing it's obviously working. I mean, 4 out of 4 is pretty good batting average. What we still don't know, and we're going to wait to find out, is how much of any gold is in those. But one thing I do like about those targets a lot is they're big intercepts, so the scale potential is absolutely there. if any of these holes, and keep in mind these 4 holes are 4 separate targets at Buckhorn, if any of these holes have good gold grades, this thing gets reset very fast. So this is one you don't want to lose sight of. Keep an eye on this as the stuff works through the lab, and remember, they do have a bona fide discovery anyway at Lamefoot, and Lamefoot is the project that they can drill year round. So there's lots of news coming from this one. Thanks for coming by, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.